Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the PokerNews Podcast. Drum roll, please, everybody. You're not going to have to hear my unpopular opinions or my annoying voice for 16 weeks.
Oh, no.
This is the last week, but Chad's going to have to find an opinion on things because somebody's going to have to be spicy and juicy on this podcast. Am I right?
I think that's going to be Jeff from here on out, or some great guests, right? We got some great guests lined up. I know one today is Tony Miles. He was the runner-up in the World Series of Poker back in 2018. He is in this big prop bet with Sean Deeb. This stems before the pandemic, where if you recall, he has laid $5,000 that he can complete a course on American Ninja Warrior, and actually took a shot at it last year in 2019. If he would have got it, he was getting 25-1 against Sean Deeb. He could have won $125,000. Unfortunately, didn't get it. But as part of the bet, he gets 3 tries. The second try is at 20-1 odds, so he has $100,000 he could possibly win. And his episode of his second try is this Monday. This coming Monday, it's going to be on national TV. And I got the chance to talk to him about it. He couldn't spoil everything, but we talked a lot about his journey, about the prop bet, and a pretty horrific injury he suffered that he had to contend with. It's a must-listen interview with one of my favorite people in poker.
Is his bet with Sean Deeb?
It is, yeah. So he'll explain in the interview, but they were roommates at a poker stop, playing online, grinding online, and this kind of. He'll tell you about the genesis of how the bet came up, but it was one of those things, like so many things in poker, where a couple poker players just sitting around, start talking about things and say, hey, this calls for a bet, and we have it. So
it's one of the things I love about Sean too, by the way. He likes to bet. I like that.
16 weeks. You having a baby or something?
Have you heard? And yeah, for those who are watching with video, in the end, maybe I'll give you a little preview of what's going on down south. It's getting pretty serious, guys, and it's hot as balls here in Montgomery County. So it's I'm ready. I'm ready to make a little poker baby for everyone, and to take some time off. You know, this stress is not good for the baby. Ooh. So it's time to relax. But we have a super, super juicy episode for you guys. Actually, we were talking yesterday, me and the guys, trying to figure out, can we make this one? Is this going to be a short one, a long one? Basically, we were just listing story after story after story that we have to cover, and you guys will not want to miss any of it. This is going to be a super good episode, and I'm kind of glad to go out with a bang. I'm not going to lie. And I did just interview Bryn Kenny. I love Bryn Kenny. It's been a really crazy week personally for me, and just having somebody like him to talk to today really brought me back down to earth and reminded me, what's important. Take a breath, take it easy, be a boss. And so you will have one more week where I'm not on the show, but you can still hear my irritating voice periodically inserting my unpopular opinions. And before we get into some of those, let us quickly take a moment to acknowledge our sponsors, Elite Chip Care.
Are your chips dirty and unsanitary? Elite Chip Care's ultrasonic cleaners kill bacteria and pathogens without using chemicals. Protect your team from potentially hazardous chemicals, UV, and gases. For daily sanitizing of your chips, our laboratory oven will eradicate most viruses using only heat. Up to 2,500 chips sanitized in just 3 minutes. Avoid the reoccurring expense of costly chemicals, UV bulbs, and gases. Safe, inexpensive, and sustainable. Visit EliteChipCare.com.
So I have to argue that probably the most epic news to come out this week is what we have all been waiting for, maybe since last year. I don't know. There was even some questions as to whether or not 2021 would include a World Series of Poker at all, but lucky for us, poker fans and media, there is a World Series, and there is actually a schedule with 88 events on it. Kind of looks pretty awesome. A lot of things similar, a few things different. Chad, I know you're our resident WSOP guy.
Nice.
The
You have to be
resident,
careful what you say
resident
these
American.
days.
Yeah, I'm the resident American, as you've said in past episodes.
Yeah, but this is more about your relationship with the World Series.
Well, it's
Chad.
true. I did know about the schedule coming down the pipeline. I mean, obviously, we all knew that a schedule was going to be coming, but I learned last week that it was going to come out early this week. So we had some time to prepare. I did get my hands on the schedule a little bit in advance, thanks to some sources at the World Series of Poker allowed us to.
Okay, I'm sick of you bragging about this shit. Okay, you guys.
We know you
can
got the
just
schedule
say,
early.
Okay, you can just be like, these are my thoughts on the
Jerk.
schedule, and stop trying to make us
All right.
feel
Well,
bad.
I think the schedule is actually pretty great. It's respectful, I guess is a good word to put it, amid what the world is like coming out of the pandemic. They didn't go balls to the wall in over 100 events. In fact, there's only 88 events, which to me is a little less. There are no online events scheduled for the fall right now, which was a surprise to me. It shows that they are respecting the bracelet a little bit more, if you will, instead of just saying, hey, we're doing 33 bracelet events on WSOP.com during the summer, 33 on GGPoker, and then we're also going to do a dozen or what have you in the fall. Seems a bit overkill. So I think they're taking the position of, look, we got this great series on the summer for both GGPoker and WSOP.com. That's the bracelet schedule event. Let's let that stand on its own merits. And I think that's a great position to take. So we got 88 live events coming to the Rio All Suite Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, September 30th through November 23rd. We knew those details. We knew the main event schedule, but we didn't know the actual event schedule. We do now. Buy-ins range from as low as $400 up to $250,000. And some highlights on the schedule is it's going to kick off a huge opening weekend. It's called the Reunion. It's a $500 buy-in, $5 million guaranteed tournament. Basically the new Big 50, if you will. They got to get 10,000 entries just to meet the guarantee. They have a $25K heads-up championship, a $50K PLO event, and a $250,000 super high roller. That's the largest non-charity event buy-in in WSOP history. Basically the largest buy-in outside of the one drop events that they've had. And then a interesting new event to honor the Poker Hall of Fame. It is a special bounty tournament. It is $1,979 to buy into. That corresponds to the year the Poker Hall of Fame was created. And the unique twist is they're going to free roll living members of the Poker Hall of Fame into it. If they want to play, they can, and they will have bounties on them that correspond to the year they were inducted. So for instance, Huckseed was inducted last year in 2020. I'm assuming if you knock him out, you collect his bounty of $2,020 and so on and so forth, or backwards rather. But that's pretty exciting event. I love how they're tying in the Poker Hall of Fame aspect to it. And yeah, that's a lot, and there's a lot more to get to. So I'll throw it to you guys to get your thoughts and what your impressions are of the schedule.
Obviously, Jeff, we need to know your professional opinion.
My professional opinion is that they did a fantastic job with the schedule. To Chad's point, to lay it out with no online bracelets, at least at this point, does show that they're respecting the bracelet a bit more. I love, this is a really minor note, but I love that the tag team event is on Halloween. Just that the atmosphere for that event is incredible, and putting it on Halloween will just add to that, will just enhance it. That's awesome. I noticed how they've added deuce to 7, no limit single draw into the normal mix game structures that they have. So now the 50K will include that. I thought that was really important as well, because the players like that and usually have that featured in their mix. And, you know, you got to be fired up for the 250K. Like Chad said, you know, that's one of the biggest events in WSOP history. It comes after the main. It's going to get its own spotlight. They're bringing freeze outs back on a weekly basis. So every different buy-in level, you know, your 500, your 1K, your 1500, 3K, whatever, will have a freeze out event also this summer. I think that's great, or this fall. And the heads up moves from a 10K to a 25K. It'll make it a little bit more elite. It'll be a 64 player draw. Looking at the schedule, I'm fired up. The Reunion, I would like to break this news already. It's going to hit the guarantee, because that's going to be a massive turnout. I'm a little worried already about just one opening flight per day, but maybe that's an easier way for them to deal with the crowds than having 2 flights per day. I don't know. Curious to see how they work out the logistics. it seems like it's going to be great. I mean, I'm super fired up about it. Everybody talks about it. It's one of the best days of the year, just when the schedule gets released. So it's going to be awesome.
I actually spoke with Ty Stewart a little bit about registration and the lines. You know, that was a concern in 2019. And obviously coming out of the pandemic, so many people in a small and confined area is a concern in this day and age. And he said that, quote, avoiding registration queues is one of the most important initiatives of 2021. We hope players will join us in this effort. We need more players to take advantage of the electronic registration and entry system. It's much easier than players think and will make the experience better for all. And I got to echo those sentiments. If you're going to be at the World Series of Poker, try to take advantage of it. There's going to be all kinds of information available online, even at pokernews.com, explaining how you do it. Basically, you can fund an account. You can use the Bravo app to register for the tournament you want to play. Then you just go to a kiosk that are going to be located throughout the Rio and print off your registration slip and go straight to your table. You don't have to deal with the lines. You don't have to deal with handling cash. You don't have to deal with the actual registration process. So it's pretty easy. I recommend people check that out. And like you said, that's going to really help cut down on the lines. And I think that's going to be a concern this year. And kudos to them for putting an emphasis. I know they've also staffed up at the registration booth. They're going to have more people there. And I think that's going to be a welcome change for all players.
Yeah, improving the cash out process as well. You know, in an event like the reunion, you're going to have so many people make the money, so many people who want to go get their cash right away. So it looks like that they've taken steps to improve that as well.
One thing that it was missing from the schedule that I noticed and I asked Ty Stewart about was, if you recall, for 2020, before the pandemic struck, they had released the schedule, and one of the big events was this mystery bounty tournament that they were going to have, right? So everybody who claimed a bounty would get to go up and, I don't know, spin or get randomly assigned a mystery bounty. It sounded like it was going to be really cool, a lot of fun, maybe even made for TV sort of component to it, but it wasn't on the schedule. I asked him about that, and he said, upon further review, we simply feel that event has a number of operational challenges, and we want to be laser focused on offering a superior customer experience in 2021. Given anticipation, we may see record attendance. So basically, and I don't disagree, the logistics of pulling that event off were going to be tough as it was. And toss in the whole pandemic aspect. It's just one of those things they pulled the plug on. Maybe we see it in the future, but for this year, it's kind of replaced by this Poker Hall of Fame bounty that I already mentioned, which I think is going to be cool. He even said on that, he said, quote, "We have a sponsor already willing to step up and free roll all of the living Poker Hall of Fame members into the tournament and provide a last longer prize. So hopefully we'll see high participation from the legends and a very special event for the fans." So I'm curious to know who that sponsor might be. I'm curious to hear what the last longer might be amongst the Poker Hall of Famers. And then I am curious to see which Poker Hall of Famers really embrace this, participate, and interact with the fans. One person I'm hoping, fingers crossed after his tweet the other day, is one Mr. Doyle Brunson, who we thought was retired from World Series of Poker events, but that might not necessarily be the case.
Yeah, he tweeted about this, Sarah. You want to go ahead? Take
Yeah,
it, your boy Doyle.
We were keying it right up, and Chad just led us right into it. I was going to say, you know, speaking of Poker Hall of Famers that we're hoping to see, we really hope to see Doyle Brunson. And actually, I would say, though, that Doyle had done this a couple of times where it was sort of like an retirement, and then maybe like the next year we would see him for just one or two events, and then like he wasn't going to come back, and then he would come for a little bit. And then this one, he really seemed to make it pretty official. I did interview him when he said, you know, my wife's my priority, and she doesn't like it when I come home late at night and she's not doing well, and I just can't take the long days, and I got to be home with my wife, which I definitely respected. Took a couple years off, and now he's been in the house for a long time and been hanging out, and I think he's ready to party, and I'm super excited to see him back. Also, I think there's definitely ways to balance this out, and really he's pretty careful about, you know, the things he chooses to play and not play. So I think I hope we'll be seeing a lot more of him at the Rio, but I also, you know, he's got to be there to take care of mama.
Yeah, and he did tweet, quote, "I'm planning a few select tournaments in the WSOP this year." My only issue with all of this is I love how he went out in 2018. You know, he said that the no limit deuce to 7 single draw was most likely going to be his final tournament. He final tabled that tournament along with Todd Brunson, who went deep, and just the electricity in the Amazon room for that final table. When Doyle busted, I was there. That was certainly a memorable moment, to say the very least. But maybe you can create some more of those when he comes back. You know, never going to say no to Doyle at the door of the World Series of Poker.
Oh my gosh, when he just tipped his hat.
Yeah, oh, it's just perfect.
Like, get out
There's
of
the
here.
photo, but it's just, it was a perfect exit from the World Series. But it's understandable that he wants to come back, and we're thrilled to see him back.
Well, in speaking with Bryn, in fact, I asked him some of his thoughts on the schedule. What is the chances of him playing? And he did mention, you know, I think they did a relatively good job of putting quite a few of the very expensive tournaments kind of all together, connected with the main event. And so we do like to see that for those players that don't want to come for the whole summer, but who are willing to and probably would come just for a few. And that leads us into, you know, the high rollers who are willing to come to Vegas to play the most elite, the most select tournaments. We have just been keeping our eye basically the last 2 weeks on the US Poker Open. This is what Jeff's been busy with, which I cannot wait to talk about the interview with Jared Bleznick. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about David Peters. He won back-to-back US Poker Open titles. David Peters is such a boss. It doesn't seem like the pandemic made anything any worse for any of the players that we were seeing at the top before the pandemic. They're all still there. And Chad, we even have a little moment with David. Am I right?
We do, yeah. We had a reporter on site. Matt Hansen was producing some great content, and he had the opportunity to catch up with David Peters, who you mentioned shipped back-to-back US Poker Open titles. Now, we're not talking tournaments. We're talking the overall series titles, which is quite the accomplishment given the fields. And he won 3 events this year, I think 3 out of 12. So he's 25% of the events that happened. He took down a 10K no limit hold'em for $217,000. He also won back-to-back events. He won the short deck for $124,000, and then event number 11 was a 25K. He took that down for $465,000. So just absolutely crushed it. And Matt Hansen had the opportunity to chat with David Peters.
I'm here with David Peters at the US Poker Open. David, you've had an incredible run here at this series. What's it like to be back at live poker?
It feels great to be back, back to the live action. And it's been over a year and a half since I played a hand of live poker. So yeah, it's been fun to be back and play against a lot of people you're friends with and you've battled with for so long that it feels good to be back in.
What does it take to have success in a field like this?
There's a lot of preparation that goes in. A lot of many hours, days spent, preparing for different situations and figuring out your game plan and everything. So yeah, I think just a lot of work went into a good week like this.
And what are your plans here going forward the rest of the summer? We have the Poker Go Cup that heads up the World Series. Are you going to play all of it?
Planning on playing the Poker Go Cup next. The heads up, I'm going to be in there. All the World Series. I'm going to just get back in the grind. See how I feel as far as maybe some of the smaller events. But I'm planning on playing a lot of poker coming up.
All right. And do you have a side in the Negreanu versus Hellmuth heads up?
I think Negreanu is probably the favorite. I haven't been following it too closely, but it seems like Negreanu's been working on his heads-up game, and when he battled Doug, so I think he's going to be a pretty sizable favorite.
All right, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, big thank you to Matt Hansen for grabbing that interview with David Peters. I actually got some contact info for David Peters. I'm going to reach out to him about coming on the PokerNews Podcast, fingers crossed, that comes through. Matt Hansen also grabbed a quick little interview with one Jordan Cristos. He finished runner-up to Sam Soverell in event number 2. That was the 10K pot limit Omaha tournament. And Jordan Cristos doesn't play a lot of US Poker Open events, but when he does play, he's doing quite well in them. And we chatted with him about that. Here it is.
I'm here with Jordan Cristos at the U.S. Poker Open outside the Poker Go Studios. Jordan, how has your U.S. Poker Open gone so far?
It's been going good. I was second place in a cash in another event. Put in some barrels in 5 other events. Missed, like playing pretty good, losing big flips, close to final tables or right outside the money. Everything's going well. There's 3 more events left. I really want to do well in those 3. Hoping to build up infinite and take them down.
How have your feelings been getting back to live poker here after quarantine?
It's nice. It's nice. I spent all of 2020 just being with my kids and going to, just doing anything but poker or normal things because of COVID. So it's nice to bond with them for as long as we did at the age that they are. And now that poker's back, it's like a new adventure inside the game. It's all that time off. A forced hiatus was a really interesting thing that's never happened for me. In 15 years of poker, I've never had that long of a break. So I feel just refreshed, rejuvenated, just ready. And I've been kicking ass this year, so I'm expecting that to continue.
Do you have plans for the World Series in the fall?
Play everything and win everything. The main event is mine. Everything else leading up to that is also a nice little bonus. I've been thinking about the main event my entire life, so the plan is to win that. And do well in everything else. Just play really good. Just be in tune with everything I know how to do and do it for 60, 70, a million days straight until I have everything that I want out of life from this game. So that's my plan for the World Series.
All right, another big thank you to Matt Hansen for making that happen. Now I want to talk about one thing right now. And it's just 2 words for you, get sports cards.
Sports cards.
I want to talk about sports cards, Jeff.
Sports cards. So this interview took place after the 10K mix event, or 10K PLO, sorry about that, 10K PLO, at the US Poker Open. So, best of the best. Jared Bleznick is at a final table. He is, no doubt about it, quite the character. He doesn't play many tournaments, but when he does, he seems to run deep. He played a Poker Masters 10K mix back in 2019. He shipped that. He's running deep in this 10K PLO. And so, I know him just a little bit, and we're talking by the bar before heads up play. And I tell both Jared and Max Coleman, who were heads up for the title, I tell them both, hey, at the end, stick around. I'm going to talk to you, just 2 or 3 questions each, just your standard winners interview on second place, how he did, first place, how he did, blah, blah, blah. We move on. We end the show. Life is beautiful. And Jared looks at me, and you can tell he's thinking. He says, hey, when you interview me, ask me like how I'm feeling. Okay, ask me how I'm feeling about poker. And I'm like, I don't really think you get to dictate the questions that I ask, but obviously the question in some form when you finish a tournament is something to the effect of how does it feel? We try to vary the words a little bit, but that's the effective question. So I knew that there was something planned. Something was working in the mind of Jared Bleznick. And so Blesnick wins the tournament. Go out to talk to them both. Give them a little dap before we go on the air. I didn't really think that much was coming. Talk to Max. We get 2 questions in. And then Jared, you win this 10K pot limit Omaha. What it was, take me through your run and how you felt about it. I gave him a little leeway, opened the door just a little bit for him. And Poker News has an article about it, and you can read it word for word, and you can see the video. But I'll read this first part of it. He says, all of this. He says, I got to be honest, all of this, it just doesn't do anything for me. Now, keep in mind, he just won $189,000 in a pretty prestigious poker event. He says, sports cards. That's my life. Poker was something that I loved growing up in my 20s. Sports cards. It's just the greatest business in the world. I've played enough poker in my life. So, I got to push back at least a little bit. We're at a poker tournament. And so I say you have a Poker Masters title on your resume. You have a US Poker Open title on your resume. Doesn't this mean at least a little bit to you? And he's like, hey, I love the events. Maury's great. Carrie's great. Everybody's great here. These are nice. But sports cards. And that just kind of caught fire. It's just all about sports cards for Jared Bleznick, and it kind of blew up. And I should note that he gave me a hug at the very beginning of the interview, which I certainly did not expect. He hugged Kerry Katz when he beat him heads up in the 10K 8-game mix at the Poker Masters. That was awkward to say the least. He hugged Max Coleman after he beat him heads up. That was awkward to say the least. And he hugged me right when I turned to him to ask him a question. That was awkward to say the least.
Okay, so this begs the question. Is he just looking for press for his sports card store, or is this genuine, like maybe he has some kind of borderline obsession in addition to potentially like a borderline personality?
I think it's a good question. I think the answer is both. I think number one, sure, he's looking for press. He owns a sports card shop with Tom Marchese here in Las Vegas that I think is doing very well. They moved locations to a much bigger and nicer spot. I think they're doing well. So press for that. But then also, I think he is genuinely obsessed with sports cards. And if you follow him on Instagram, you see his little bits where like this gorgeous woman will come up to him in bed and he's like, she's ready to, and he's like, babe, sports cards. And he's opening packs of sports cards. So this is kind of like his bit, but I just think it's also his number one passion and his number one obsession.
Might also be life a little, because I don't know if you guys remember, but we did hire for like part-time one summer. And I think also she went to the World Series of Poker Europe one year for reasons I also can't remember exactly, but Jared Bleznick's longtime girlfriend, Julia Lee, who I know now maybe they are not together anymore. I don't know. I can't stay too up with the juicy gossip, but I do remember hearing something about him and her breaking up and maybe him being like a little crazy. That's just gossip, guys. I don't know, but that's what I heard.
Crazy about sports cards.
But that's what I'm saying. Like if he's rejecting girls for sports cards, I could see how after a while, if you're the girlfriend, you're like, all right, dude, I've had enough. Like
you're second fiddle.
I'm a model and I want some like attention, please, too.
Cards.
But oh my gosh. Well, you gotta check it out, guys.
I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of it right away, for sure. Like it actually irked me a little bit. Like
Chad was pissed.
Yeah,
what is this?
Yeah, it's just I'm not a big fan of awkward cringe as a tactic, I guess. We've all been there. We've all interviewed like people who did what Blesnick did to you, Jeff. Like it's very awkward and it's uncomfortable. Sarah, you probably had it more than anybody. And I'm just not a big fan of that. And then learning it was contrived, like he was anticipating doing this. I'm not a big fan. Like he could have, I'm fine with him promoting his sports card business. Just do it in a different manner. Be like, hey, pay your respect to the game, right? This is a made for TV event. It's very prestigious. So that's how they're building it. If you do have a respect for Kerry Katz and Maury Eskandani, who are the men behind this, just do the 30-second boilerplate. Yeah, it feels great to win. I'm very excited about this. I also want to take the opportunity to tell you about sports cards and go into it that way, in a more natural.
And I also want to not awkwardly transition to sports cards no matter what.
Yeah, it's just I felt just awkward and bad, and I enjoy that to a certain extent, and some television programs that I watch or what have you, but it's harder to pull off in the poker world. I don't know, and you guys know I love the game, and I won't say like, oh, that was very disrespectful to the game, but I think there was definitely a more respectful manner to do it. Just give that 10, 15, 20-second winner's interview, I guess. It just for the respect of the game. With Daniel Coleman, when he won the big one for one drop in 2014 or whenever that was, there was a whole fiasco where he didn't really want to do any media, and he was grouchy and grumpy after winning this prestigious event that had a huge charity component. And that didn't sit well with me either. And to each their own. It's their moment. They can do what they want with it. I just don't always agree with what some people do.
Look at Chad getting ready to become unpopular opinions. Chad, look at him
ready
out there calling people
already.
out, dude. Like just calling people out. Get ready for Blesnick to come for you, buddy. You better watch out. And Coleman too.
Hey, this would be he can come at me like I feel about comic books like he does about sports cards, right? So this is gonna be a sports cards comic book battle
together so hard.
And if he wants to open a comic book store in Vegas, I'll listen to him.
Well,
And
we
Matt
don't.
caught up with Blesnick also, so that is available on Poker News for just even more of his thoughts on sports cards.
Well, we don't want to miss out completely on Sean Winter winning the U.S. Poker Open Event 12, the 50K No Limit Hold'em for more than $750,000. Sean Winter notched the largest single prize in the U.S. Poker Open after defeating a star-studded field of 42 of poker's greatest players. I mean, even just looking at the final six, it's kind of ridiculous, but this is what we've come to expect from the US Poker Open. And really, Sean Winter, I remember when he first won a bracelet. Gosh, I feel like it was so long ago now. And he had his dog maybe in the picture, or there was a cute dog in the picture. Anyways, I remember talking to him and seeing him emerge in a very, I think, organic and he's studied hard, he's worked hard, he's gotten to the place that he is in poker in what I would say is, yeah, the most organic way possible. He's really, I think, deserving of his position in poker in general. And I was more than happy to see him win. I'm sure, Jeff, you also were.
Yeah, and he was getting pretty crushed throughout the course of the series. So when I asked him what it meant to win this US Poker Open, he said it meant I got unstuck, because he was just blasting off in all the 10Ks and the 25K. I think he had one min cash. So this was a big win for him financially. And then I think, to your point, Sarah, when you beat a final table that includes Steven Chidwick, Jason Kuhn, Jonathan Little, Sam Sopperl, and Bill Klein, you have to feel pretty confident about your game and that the hard work pays off. But he implied that he's going right back to work. He said, you know what, I really did make some mistakes here. It's kind of like, I feel good about the win, but I'm not letting it get to my ego, because there's still so much more that I can do in this game. So I really respect that approach.
And I think actually that's a good time for us maybe to segue into your interview, Chad, with Tony Miles, being able to recognize when it's time to just get back to the grind, time to keep pushing, keep striving. And, it's funny, I was just talking to my replacement, it sounds so weird to say, but she didn't know who Tony Miles was. And I was like, Tony Miles is like you don't remember the football jersey, like runner up. He had this amazing, heartwarming, like human interest story. And to me, he was just one of the characters over the many years of WSOP main event final tables that really stood out to me, and somebody that I think was really easy to root for and to get on board with. So I'm excited to hear, Chad, what he had to say.
Yeah, he's a good guy in poker, if you will. I've enjoyed all my interactions with him. He's been nothing but kind when dealing with me and my requests. And one of them was, hey, let's get you on the show to talk about American Ninja Warrior. He had messaged me back in early 2020 that he was going to be back on the show. Now, this isn't a given. He had to apply even after his first appearance, right? He can't just go and say, hey, I have this bet with Sean Deeb, I need to get back on the show. He actually has to go through the process. And fortunately, they gave him a second shot, but then the pandemic struck and everything was postponed. Production shut down on the show. We talk a little bit about that. Fortunately, things got back up and running. He got to go and compete. We don't know what the result is yet, and he cannot share that. Of course, it's under lock and key until the episode airs, but we don't have to wait long, because American Ninja Warrior is going to return on Monday, June 21st at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 Central, and Tony Miles is slated to be there. You can tune in, you can watch him run the course and see if he can win this $100,000 bet with Sean Deeb. You're going to learn all about that bet. You're going to learn all about American Ninja Warrior and all about the man known as Tony Miles right now. All right, I am with a special guest this week, a guy I've been looking forward to talking to for, over a year now. One Tony Miles runner-up in the 2018 World Series of Poker to one John Sin. But we're here to talk about a fun prop bet that started a couple of years ago. It's the American Ninja Warrior prop bet that you have with one Mr. Sean Deeb. For those who don't know, I believe you had a 25-1 bet. You bet $5,000 on yourself that you would be able to complete a course on American Ninja Warrior, which of course is extremely difficult within a 3-year period. You gave it a go back in 2019, did not get there, unfortunately, but as part of the bet, like I said, you have 3 years to do it. It decreases to 20-1. And if you have to go a third time, to 15-1. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is going to be your second shot at it, right?
It will be my second shot. Yes, I was selected for the show in 2020 as well, but I had a traumatic injury, had to have complete reconstructive shoulder surgery. So yeah, this was my second year competing on the show.
There's a lot to unpack here, and I'm privy to it. We've been in touch. So let's go back to the bet itself, and just give us a quick reminder. Like, how did this bet with Sean Deeb come to be in the first place?
So after finishing runner-up in the World Series of Poker in 2018, I was traveling, playing some tournaments in Europe. Sean and I got an Airbnb together in Scotland to play WCoop. We went to lunch one day and he was kind of asking me, so what's your next goal? What's on your agenda? And I just mentioned to him that I had always watched the show American Ninja Warrior with my parents. And after finishing runner-up in the main event, the show is very selective. I thought I might have a good chance at getting on and, getting a chance to run. So he said, well, that's interesting. You're drawing dead. You could never do that. And of course I told him, like, no, I'm not. And he said, well, we should bet on it. And so we discussed some terms, and as you can see from his tweet on Twitter, the bet was that I could get on the show and advance one round.
Yeah, and it was exciting. I guess this is a couple of years ago. I remember watching the first go around, right? Like, it was very exciting. Let's see if you can do it. And I mean, this was pre-pandemic, right? So this must have aired in 2019.
That was 2019 was my first time competing.
And what, for those who didn't get to see it, what happened? What went wrong? We already know you didn't win the bet. So what went wrong that first go around?
So there's basically a bunch of obstacles that are in rotation for the show. As most people will know, but if not, I'll kind of explain a little bit. A lot of the obstacles are rock climbing style of obstacles. You're hanging, you're swinging, you're throwing your body from one obstacle to another. And then there's a balance, a component of the show. So the third obstacle, the first time I competed, was an obstacle called spinning blocks. It's 6 square blocks that are on bearings with a pole through the center of them. They're cocked at different angles, they're different sizes, and you have to run across the top of 6 of them while they spin. So you have to stay right over the center of axis, or else they will spin out. You have to hit the box in the center. If you're an inch off left or right, you're going down. So it's an obstacle where precision is critical. And on the second or third box, I was a little outside of the center of axis. The block started spinning. I made it a few more steps. I made it to the very last block. I was hugging it and I spun off and got wet. So that was unfortunate, but it was a great learning experience. I took that lesson and I incorporated a bunch of balance training into my regiment, and I have improved exponentially in that aspect. And it was just an amazing experience.
Yeah, I mean, I surely enjoyed watching you. Obviously, was rooting for you as much of the poker world is. And then on March 10th of 2020, so over a year ago, you tweeted, and the bet is back. I'm so honored to announce that I got the call. You will be competing on American Ninja Warrior Season 12 in Washington, D.C. on April 11th through 12th. This was exciting news. Obviously, you were getting the second shot at it. You had 20-1 odds on the second go around, so $5K that you could win $100K off Sean Deeb. But then disaster, but disaster struck, right? Like the pandemic. This was like within days of when things were unfolding with the pandemic. The NBA canceled their season. Tom Hanks announced that he had COVID, and like that's really when the world started to shut down. So how did that impact you in this callback for American Ninja Warrior?
So the show was postponed. I think everybody was in the same situation where we really just didn't know what was going to happen. It was unfortunate for me because 2020 was probably the year where I had invested the most time into my training. I was in great shape. Technically, I was very sound on a lot of the obstacles and the movements and the physics that I needed for the show. So I was really excited to compete. So when COVID struck and they postponed it, I was disappointed. I didn't know whether the show was going to happen or not. I was kind of just in limbo, just like a lot of the rest of the world. And so they told us that for that point, the show was postponed. So I continued my training. I was working hard. And then on April 20th, I was involved in a bad motorized vehicle accident. I dislocated my clavicle and tore every ligament in my AC joint, which is my shoulder.
I remember you messaged me. I had no idea until you messaged me. I was looking through my phone here, and you actually, I remember, sent me some pictures, and like the listeners and viewers will have to take my word for it, but it was pretty brutal, pretty graphic. Like this was a very, very serious injury.
Yeah, it was really serious. The best part about the injury was my mindset. I've been through so many things in my career and my personal life that I've had to persevere through. And so immediately, right after the injury, instead of dwelling on the misfortune of being involved in that, I look to the positive. This is going to be another chance to prove myself. This is going to be a chance to get stronger. This is going to be an opportunity to show the world that you can recover from anything, that mind over matter is the most critical element of being successful.
I love your mindset. I actually just found the messages, and you messaged me, and just you sent pictures at first, so that was like, oh shit. And you said took a bad spill going at 19 miles per hour. Your shoulder exploded after colliding with the asphalt, and I tore all of the ligaments holding my AC joint together. I just wanted to let you know, since I know you've been covering the story, I need surgery immediately and will be out of Ninja Warrior this season, but I will be back in the fist pump emoji. So you had that mindset even as you were going through this, which I think is a testament to who you are. And then, so you obviously had a long road to recovery, but you made it back, right? You've already, I know you can't reveal spoilers. You've already went through the course a second time, and it's slated to air here in a week or two. So first off, when is it slated to air? And then tell us, about getting back from that injury.
So the air date is going to be June 21st. That's next Monday. This Monday, the upcoming Monday.
Right.
And then, I'll talk a little bit about my recovery. So basically they had to completely reconstruct my shoulder. There was probably a 3-month period where I was doing rehabilitation. I couldn't even use my shoulder to pick up a cup or grab a cup from the cupboard, much less use it in the way that ninjas use it with all their body weight, swinging from obstacle to obstacle. So I just really dug in, man. I gritted my teeth. I went to every physical therapy appointment. I came home twice a day. I did my exercises at home. I was really dedicated to recovering and to getting back. And the surgeon was great. He actually used a cadaver tendon to secure the joint because I told him that I was competing on American Ninja Warrior. So I was really grateful I had a world-class surgeon and that he was able to use that extra measure to reinforce my shoulder. So the bad news was they told me that I wasn't going to be able to compete on the show for that year, and that I shouldn't be doing any strenuous exercise for probably about the next year. That's about the time frame they gave me. And that was in April, which is normally when the show airs. So I didn't even know if I was going to make it back for the next year. So at that point I was, I was a little not frustrated, but I didn't know what was going to happen.
Sure. I mean, the world was in turmoil too with the pandemic. I mean, like I mentioned, I saw the injury photos. I'm shocked that, if you would have told me after seeing those photos that you would be back at it in a year or a little over a year, whatever it was, like I would have said no way. Like it was pretty gruesome. And so for you to bounce back and then go through it, like it had to be disappointment, like you said, but clearly you worked really hard, and it's got to feel pretty rewarding right now.
Yeah, I'm built a little different than most people. I really I revel in the opportunity to like prove myself. When someone says that you can't do something, or when those doctors were telling me like it's going to be a year before you can start training again, I was thinking in my head like, all right, so you mean 6 months? So in 8 months I'll be back on the course. So I got the email that the applications were due for American Ninja Warrior in December this year. Normally they're not due until January. So that was 8 months post-op. I had already started not working out, but trying to hang from a pull-up bar and maybe trying to do one pull-up. I was probably doing one arm pull-ups with my good arm. So I applied, and one of the major considerations of this bet was that Ninja Warrior is extremely selective. They have over 100,000 applicants every year, and only 600 people, around 600, get selected for the show. So every year it's a sweat. Like, am I going to even get picked? And although they love the storyline, and I feel like I have a good rapport with the producers, it's never a sure thing. So like you said, in my tweets and my Facebook posts and stuff, I'm always super stoked when I get that call and they let us know that I've been selected. So
yeah, like I don't think a lot of people realize that it's not a given that you even get to go run the course. Like you have to apply, you have to get chosen. So in order to even win this bet against Sean Deeb, there is that outside factor that you don't control. Like you can put in the training, you can study the course and do that sort of stuff, but there is still that aspect of the producers choosing you to get on. So it was like you almost had to win that part just to get on, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, I'm going to be rooting for you on Monday to see if you win again. I know it's exciting. Even if you don't, though, you still have a third opportunity, right? This is another chance at 15-1 against Sean Deeb. So without giving anything away, let's hypothetically something went wrong on the second try, you don't make it. Would you give it a third go? Would that be in the cards?
I am definitely open to competing again. It's been such an amazing experience getting into this community. It's so much different than the poker community. It really is like nothing I've ever been a part of before. You see these ninjas, they're all supportive of each other, and even though they're competing against each other, they're helping each other, they're supporting each other, they're coaching each other on the sidelines. If they fall on something and they have some type of strategic, insight about how that obstacle can be completed better, they'll go to their friends and say, hey, this messed me up on this part. I think if you grab it here instead of there, that'll counterbalance it, or something like that. It really is an amazing community. So I plan on continuing my training, whether this bet is live or not. It's an incredible fitness challenge. I've gotten into the best shape I've ever been in my entire life. And it's so much more fun for me than just going to the gym and lifting weights. It's like, I feel like a kid on a playground. I'm going across the monkey bars and doing these crazy wing nuts where I'm throwing myself 10 feet in the air and catching something else. And I've been doing a lot of rock climbing to supplement my training as well. And there's a huge strategic component in that. It's like a puzzle, the way you position your body, the way you do certain movements. And so I really just enjoyed the challenge of competing and training for this opportunity.
For those who aren't super familiar with the show, what would be the next step, right? You go and you complete a course. Let's say you can compete a course. Do you advance to another course, to another stage? How does it work?
Correct. So basically, there's a qualifying course once you're selected. I think between 100 and 120 people roughly run the qualifying course. From that subset of people, they choose 30 people, or not choose, 30 people qualify for the semifinals. So you either have to complete the qualifying course, which is six obstacles, or get the furthest in the fastest time. So say, 20 people complete the course, and then 10 more make it to the fifth obstacle and fail on that one. The 10 that got to the fifth obstacle the fastest would also qualify for the semifinals. Once you make it to the semifinals, it is no longer a 6 obstacle course, it's a 10 obstacle course, which may not sound like that much, like they're adding 4 obstacles, but there's a compounding effect in the fatigue factor on these courses. So you're hanging from a bar or an obstacle for a minute and a half. By the time you get off, you're hanging on the next obstacle for 30 seconds. By the time you get to the 6th or 7th obstacle, it's like your grip strength and your fingers are so pumped out that you can't even close your hand, much less hang from something. So the semifinals course is well known to be extremely tough. They usually only have a couple people that finish that one. And then I believe they take the top 10 from that round. And then you go to national finals, which is in Vegas, usually during WSOP. So that would be a dream come true. That is the end goal for me. I would like to qualify for the national finals, have it be run during WSOP, have all of my international and domestic friends and family be there for the World Series and get a chance to come out and watch me compete there.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I'm excited to watch you again. For those who are listening and you want to tune in, it's 1 week from right now when we're recording this. It'll be even shorter by the time you listen to this. Monday, June 21st, 9 p.m. Eastern time, 8 p.m. Central. Tony, my fingers are crossed for you, man. I might want a follow-up interview once we know, the result or what have you. We're all going to be tuning in. We're all going to be rooting for you. You're representing the poker world. I think maybe you and Jason Kuhn are like the only 2 people that might be able to even compete on this show. It's just so physically demanding, but it has been a real pleasure, railing you throughout this journey. And I can't wait for Monday.
Thank you so much, Chad. I appreciate it. And I hope you're well. Take care. I'll talk to you soon.
Well, just a couple of months ago, we had on the show Chance Kornuth, who was, I think he had final tabled a WPT about 100 years ago, which he finally got the opportunity to play. And he got us up to speed about what it felt like at that final table to go from being a chip leader to not, in fact, winning the event. And he was genuinely disappointed. And I was genuinely surprised because we all know that make baby run good is something that I fully support and believe in. But don't worry, it's because Chance was just holding out for the MSPT Venetian.
Yeah, it was a very special event, a $1,600 main event, $2 million guaranteed, surpassed that, almost $2.9 million in the prize pool after 2011 entries competed. And one was Chance Kornuth. He actually didn't even know about the event until a friend who was staying with him kind of reminded him, hey, this event's going on, you should go down and play. So he did. He ends up topping the field, which included a pretty stacked final table containing one Eric Baldwin, aka Base Baldy, Ryan Torgerson, who tore up the WSOP.com online bracelet series last year, and then one Brock Wilson, who is busy at the United States Poker Open. There's a profile on him on PokerNews.com. He's a huge force in the poker world right now, big up-and-comer. He final tabled, ultimately finishing in 7th place. But Chance Kornuth, $412,000 for the win. And to me, it was poetic in a lot of ways because I've always viewed Chance as that mid-stakes grinder who lived the dream of working his way up through the ranks to the highest levels of poker, winning bracelets, playing in high rollers, and just really the epitome
Getting a night nurse.
Getting a night nanny. It's just that player that we all dream, like, oh, I want to play the low stakes and work my way up. Chance Kornuth has done that. And I say it was poetic because here he comes back to a mid-major tour, a mid-major circuit, and ends up winning the modest buy-in, a $1,600 buy-in. That's modest for him, but winning it for a huge payday of over $400,000. Just really, to me, encapsulated what is a an already great career for him, and surely, you know, he's not going anywhere. He's got chip leader coaching. He's got lots of plans in the poker world. He's going to be around a long time. But for me, this was a very symbolic win, if you will.
And speaking of favorite mid-major poker tours, we've all been waiting patiently, anticipating the return of the Run Good Poker Series, and it's back with a vengeance.
It is back in San Diego at Jamul Casino. I went to the stop last year, I think in early 2020. Great stop, tremendous poker environment. The people there are awesome. No surprise that Run Good crushed it when they do come back. Their main event, which guarantees $100,000, had 559 entries for a prize pool of $279,000. This I don't like, though. A 9-way chop? Like, are we serious here? You make the final table and you chop 9 ways? They left $5K to play for and the title. So congratulations to Armando
What are we
Mesina
playing? The nightly deep stack?
But yeah, I mean, come on. Like, it's supposed to be 54K for first. It was a 25K first place payout, which is still great. But like 9? I don't like chops to begin with. So 9? Come on.
Well, you're going to hate this then even more, Jeff, because when I seen this winner, I'm like, wait a minute, I know this guy, because a month before I was in San Diego for the MSPT Showdown Series at nearby Saquon Casino, and it was in the $360 regional event, got 1,047 runners, that Armando Mesina actually won that tournament as well for $33,000 in a 7-way chop.
Unbelievable.
That ended the tournament right then and there. So it's very chop happy, if you will, in San Diego. It seems they're keen to do it. I seen it a lot at that Showdown Series, and all the more benefit to Armando Mesina, because he's cleaning up doing it, and he's got a cool story. You know, he's a 65-year-old retired Navy veteran, and I always enjoy watching the old guys battle out with the young guns of poker and come out on top, and he's doing it. He's crushing it. He's won a MSPT title now, a Run Good title. And back in 2013, he turned $150 buy-in into over $30,000 payday in the Mega Million, which is usually held at the Bicycle Casino. So he's a force to be reckoned with there in Southern California.
Hell of a negotiator, I guess.
Well, speaking of people who never chop, because they have so much money, they don't care about things like that. We are obviously, and of course, talking about something we talk about pretty regularly now, the GGPoker Super Millions, but this was a very special edition of the Super Millions, the anniversary edition. We have been doing this thing for 1 year, and this tournament series has made a real name for itself, primarily by attracting all of the biggest names in poker. And in this one, it was Chinese Grinder, who goes by Judd Trump, apparently an alias of a snooker player. Clearly, I don't know that much about snooker, although I will say I've had someone explain to me the game a few times, but it's probably lost on our American audience. I'm going to guess this joke. But he pocketed $976,000, just shy of $1 million for his first place finish. So a huge, huge victory, and not easily won. The final table included the likes of Joaquim Anderson, Adrian Mateos Diaz, Christopher Frank, Victor Malinowski, Thomas Mulliker, just to name a few. I mean, if you're playing the GG Super Millions, you're expecting a final table of this caliber, and a big congrats. So you're just allowed to just go by, if you just want to go by Judd Trump and be known by that, you can just do that?
I think that it's fine. I think if you had a poker player's alias, like if you try to call yourself Fedor Holtz, that they would put a stop to that. But I think something like this is fine. And with GG's system, you might be finding out his real name pretty soon. I think they transfer you to real names at certain points.
That's what I was wondering, because I feel like there's got to be lots of players that don't want their name out there, but we seem to know most of them from GG Poker, from my understanding. But either way, I love a good mystery man anyways. And before we get too far off the GG Poker Super Millions, we just want to take a moment to hear a little bit more about GG Poker.
Kevin Martin from GG Poker here, and I just got to ask, have you heard about GG Care? Oh, you haven't? Well, guess what? It's the new daily promotion that rewards you for experiencing all the bad luck poker has to offer. You know, the bad beats, the coolers, the suckouts, they're so frustrating. We hate them so much, but they cannot be avoided. But now, if you experience a bad beat on GG Poker, GG Care has your back. You'll automatically be registered to play in the next daily $30,000 GG Care flip out tournament. Here's the best part. You don't even have to be online for these flip out tournaments. Yes, you still have a chance for cash to go right into your balance. So remember, next time you're on GG Poker and you take a bad beat, GG Care has your back. So if you have not joined the fastest online growing website, then make sure you join the GG Poker community and join me at the tables very soon.
Well, of course, I told you guys, in addition to all of these very interesting news stories we had going on, and there are still a few more news stories to cover, there has been some evolution in the juicy gossip on the feminist front. So I'm not even sure how to tease this. Okay, Jeff, why don't you break down the story for us? What's been going on?
Sure. So long story short, and I'm sure you guys know by now where you can check in the Twitter world for all of the details. There was a stream that was put on by a couple of people involved with ACR, including the CEO of ACR, Mr. Phil Nagy. There were a lot of explicit jokes. The content was adult rated, to say the least. And to get down to the main point at hand, the CEO basically implied that he should receive sexual favors to grant ACR streamers the kind of sponsorship deal that ACR hands out. And so that's kind of the root of the issue. And that's how Phil Nagy has come under fire. It includes one streamer who has quit being a member of the ACR Stormers, I think they call it, which is not quite top level ambassador, but it's just one of their streaming teams led to that because this person was uncomfortable with everything that's going on. And then, of course, you all probably remember that Vanessa Cade had a major issue with GG bringing on Dan Bilzerian. She felt that disrespected women, to say the very least. Vanessa Cade signed with ACR, and now we see the CEO of ACR making these comments, and then past comments have come up time and time again displaying his sexism. Now, I'm not saying whatever Vanessa did was right or wrong, but the drama has been enhanced because of that. So you see Veronica Brill and Vanessa Cade going back and forth mainly because of that issue. Sarah, go ahead. Go for it. You've been waiting this whole time.
It all comes full circle, folks, which is that basically when you come with the pitchforks, sometimes the pitchforks come back for you. And I think this is one of the very difficult and tough issues with sort of being like an icon of sort of like virtue or, you know, the moral compass in some ways, is that it almost inevitably finds some way to make it your fault again at some point, that now you cannot be like the center of virtue because actually you're also just like a human being. And I actually, of course, think that it is not Vanessa Cade's responsibility to resign because of these things. It's 100%. I also, even though I'm a sellout, chuckle, someone said I was a sellout, guys, which is really
of all
funny.
People, Sarah Herring is a sellout
because this is my job and I've always done it for money, and I've always said like this is my job, that I sell my time for money. But I do think, you know, people also have a responsibility to take care of themselves, to feed their families. This is something we talked about on the Poker News debate, that, you know, every single person at every single company should not have to be responsible for the actions of every other person. And also, to be fair, I don't know the CEO of this company, but I can say I did a Twitch stream probably 4 or 5 years ago called Happy Hour, where I got super drunk with lots of poker players. Also got them pretty drunk. may or may not have had a few conversations that were a little dicey, a little sexual. And I've never seen this Twitch stream, but from what I understand, that's kind of the nature of this stream, is pushing the boundaries. And I also think it's fair to give people a little bit of latitude in situations like that. It is uncomfortable to be on stream. It is uncomfortable to know that there's people just watching and looking at everything that you say and do. And periodically things just like spaz out of your mouth that you probably, if you had thought about it longer, would not have said or would regret. And I just would like to hope that as a community, we can learn to have a little bit more patience with each other and like pump the brakes a little bit on like coming so hard for each other about everything. It's okay, y'all.
Yeah.
He made a little sexy joke.
Made a joke, apologized for it. Now, the only reason I think it's different with this ACR CEO is because he has a history of it. So, and then, you know, treating women poorly over his past, according to Twitter. I'm not personally saying I have any knowledge of this, but if there's a real history there and it happens time and time and time again, eventually your apologies are going to wear out, right? Eventually your apologies aren't going to be taken as being genuine. But if you make a mistake in a moment, and you know, I'm with you, Sarah, we tend to just jump on everybody right away and just harass. And even like, you know, I don't think Vanessa Cage should be jumped on, to your point, just because she signed up with this company and all of a sudden the CEO said this, so she must resign. She should lose her sponsorship deal. She should walk away because of the principles that she stands for. I appreciate her just saying, you know what, I'm going to take some time and really think about everything's going on. So I think the moral of the story, to Sarah's point, is everybody can just take a deep breath. Everybody can just calm down. You know, we don't have to be the biggest fans of the ACR CEO, which we are certainly not, which I am most certainly am not.
And Vanessa's in a position now, I think, financially, where she might be able to make a decision here that it might have been tougher to make, you know, 6 months ago or something. If she ultimately decides, you know, this goes against her values, or it, like, you know, it's against her integrity, or, you know, her integrity is compromised or something, she might be able to say like, all right, deuces, I'm not into this whole thing. And I'm curious what you think. I thought it was interesting how fast Chris Moneymaker came like with the barbs for Veronica Brill. And I will say, I thought Veronica Brill's point was pretty spot on. She basically just said, if you're going to preach all of this and make this big scene, like if you're on your soapbox, it's hard to like calm down, which I actually thought her point was pretty well made and wasn't actually that vicious. It was just kind of like, if you're going to talk a big game, sometimes you're going to have to come here. But Chris Moneymaker came for Veronica hard. And I was kind of surprised because he's like the nice guy of poker. I'm like, is this a new Chris Moneymaker? The ACR Chris Moneymaker?
Yeah, when he said stay in your lane, it's like, whoa. But I think this is Veronica's lane. I think she's fine to comment on what's going on, as are most people. Veronica has an affiliation of sorts with GG, you know, via Poker After Dark. I think what she tweeted, like you said, Sarah, was completely fair. I didn't get the stay in your lane thing at all. And I love Chris Moneymaker. I mean, to your point, he is one of the nicest guys in poker. He's great to have in the poker world, and whatever role he's in, that kind of came out of nowhere. But then it seems like, and I shouldn't delve further just because I don't know anything, that Veronica and Chris Moneymaker have some kind of history there, which I'm not 100% sure of, but it's relating to Postle and the assumed defending of Postle by Moneymaker.
Oh,
which
yeah, because
I think
he
Veronica was trying to say.
With Postle, right?
Yeah, but like Moneymaker's like, that's not right, and you just kind of took that storyline and went with it. And yeah, I don't know what the truth is on those matters.
So it's always, that makes so much more sense. Yeah. There's always like so much more to the story.
Exactly.
Okay, well, Jeff has to go get his teeth fixed, and so we can't get too much more into this, but I'm really glad, deuces, Jeff, that we could finish out my last podcast with some juicy misogyny and feminist drama, because we know that is, of course, my favorite subject to cover. Chad, please tell me you have something else juicy to wrap out my last show with.
Oh, I do. I was just waiting in the wings, letting Jeff have his say before he departed so that I could talk about
misogyny.
WPT champ Dennis Blieden. He won the LA Poker Classic for $1 million back in 2018. He was one of these guys who came out of nowhere where, wow, he's all of a sudden playing high rollers. He's winning the LAPC. He's rubbing elbows with some of poker's biggest names. What's his deal? We kind of heard maybe cryptocurrencies. We weren't really sure. And then a big, I think it was in 2012 that, I'm sorry, 2019, saying that he embezzled millions of dollars. I think the original amount was 22 million. It was more like 2.7 million, I believe, in the end, from a Los Angeles-based digital company, Style Hall Incorporated. He worked for them, and over the course of several years, embezzled lots and lots of money. And he got caught. He got busted, and he was facing harsh time. And I've been keeping a close eye on his sentencing. It just kept getting postponed because of the pandemic. And I had it on my calendar, June, he's going to get sentenced. I'm going to check it, but it's probably going to get postponed again, because that's what had been happening. Not this time, though. I logged on to the court system. I was bombarded with updates from what happened. The sentencing not only took place, but a bunch of different letters were filed. Dennis Blieden himself hand wrote a 15-page article that he sent to the judge. It was kind of a pre-sentence letter just explaining his situation. And in it, he really laid out at least his side of the story. Who knows if this is accurate, if he was just playing to get sympathy from the judge before the sentencing, or if this was sincere. In it, he talks a lot about his crimes, what led to them, basically contributing it to a severe gambling addiction that started when he was young, how he became fascinated with the game of poker around the time of the poker boom, and these big poker pros became his idols. And so when he got the chance to start playing with them, he just didn't want to leave that lifestyle, and hence was stealing money to fund that lifestyle and playing these big buy-in events. And it was just, it's an ugly situation all around. Apparently he sought treatment. You know, his life obviously was ruined, and now he's going to be spending a lot of it in federal prison. He was sentenced to 6.5 years, Sarah, in federal prison for these crimes, has to pay restitution. And yeah, I hope that he continues with his treatment. Apparently he has been in rehab for gambling addiction and to address the drugs and alcohol issues he might be experiencing or may have experienced in his life, trying to become a better person, if you will. I hope all that's true, but he's going to have a lot of time to think on it as he sits in federal prison for stealing a lot of money from Style Hall.
And let's not, though, glaze over the amount of money that he has been ordered to pay in restitution. It is more than $22 million. Okay. So let's just be realistic here. This is a person who now is going to come out of federal prison with a felony record. How in the F is he going to come up with $22 million?
He never is, right? This is a life-altering, life-ruining sentence, if you will, and rightfully so. After what he did, you get caught, you get busted for this. It's not like you're going to come back to the poker scene. I hope he doesn't. He shouldn't be welcomed. He used stolen funds to play in these events, and well, that benefited the poker community, right? Like because he was feeding these big buy-ins or what have you. That's money's kind of tainted. Now there's no way of getting that back. It's not like stolen goods where you received it, they know it, and they can just reclaim it. Obviously, that's not how it's going to work in the poker world. It is what it is. But Dennis Blieden is a black mark in poker history. It's proven. He pleaded guilty. He's got his sentence. He really laid out his story, and I think it's a kind of cautionary tale, if you will, right? We talk a lot about the big wins. He had one. He had $1 million win, a WPT title. His name is on the WPT Champions Cup, at least as far as I know. I haven't heard that they're removing it or anything like that. Maybe they should. That's a different debate, I suppose. But he lived the poker dream. Like you said, he fell in love with the game around the poker boom. He idolized it, and he did whatever it took to get to the top, and he got there for a little while before he came crashing down, because it was all built on a house of lies, a fragile house of cards that you nicked the one out and the whole thing came tumbling down, and it's never going to get rebuilt again. It's one of those things where you do what you can to rehab, deal with the issues, and find a different path in life. And he claims in his handwritten letter that he is on that path now, that he's found meaning in helping others deal with, their issues. Well, he's also addressing his own. He had letters filed by his therapist and the rehab that he is at. And again, it's something I hope is true, but I can't help but be skeptical and take it with a grain of salt that he's just telling his side of the story, and he's doing so in the context of, I'm speaking to the judge before he's about to determine my fate. So I actually, and I don't think I've told anybody this, and I'm just going to say it here. Like, on the court documents, they had contact information to his lawyers and to his, therapist at this rehab facility. And I sent an email to them all, just kind of saying, look, if Dennis Blieden wants to talk to the poker world, I'd be happy to be that conduit. If that means me being his pen pal while he's in federal prison, let's have a correspondence. I think that this is, like I said, a very big cautionary tale in the poker world. I think a book could probably be written about this whole situation. You and I are both big fans of true crime, and this is a true crime situation. It's not a murder per se type situation, but it is a embezzlement for millions and millions of dollars. And it's got drugs and alcohol and all these different aspects that does make it quite compelling. It could be a movie in a lot of regards, but it isn't. It's real life, and he's going to face real life consequences for it.
Yeah, it's tough because I think, I'm somebody who can like empathize with and also sympathize with a lot of just addiction. And I come from a long line of addicts. And it's funny, the gambling addiction is something I don't really get. I have never had that or experienced that. And so I do think actually, as part of his sort of community restitution, if you will, it would behoove him to share his story and to share that experience and to hopefully be able to keep other people, if there's ever any chance of that, to be able to keep other people from finding themselves in this kind of situation. Because I do think addicts, there's a very small percentage of them that ever make it out of their addictions. And the ones that do, I do feel like it's their responsibility to share their stories and to offer hope to people who are still deep in the midst of addiction. And it's funny, I think maybe one time, one person in my life I knew was like addicted to gambling, but she was into slot machines, and it was so like trivial and something, but she would like go to the check cashing places, always like the week before, and then like go up and do the slots. But it's just interesting to me. It's something I don't really understand, but that I can see how understanding other addictions, how important it is to just get honest and to share your story. So I hope he does reach back out to you, Chad. You haven't heard back yet?
I haven't, and I don't know the situation as far as if he's actually been sent to prison or if they give him a window to report and that sort of thing. But I at least wanted
if they do a smoke bomb, dude, see you in Mexico.
I at least wanted to kind of just put it out there and say, hey, if you want to talk, and kind of like you said, just talk about the lessons that you've learned, because I do think there are lessons to be learned there, and maybe you can make a little bit of good out of a bad situation. So we'll see if it happens. It might not, probably won't. Maybe he fades out and we never hear from him in the poker world again, and he just becomes, as I said, this sort of cautionary tale. And I feel like this is an opportunity to say, we're talking about problem gambling. So if you are amongst those or anybody there are a lot of resources out there. Gamblers Anonymous. There are problem gambler hotlines, National Council on Problem Gambling, gambling addiction resources that are out there. We'll throw some in the show notes. So just know that poker is a great game. We love it. Sarah, you and I have been doing this now for more than a decade. There's a right way and a wrong way to go about things and to do things and the way to live. And Dennis Blieden certainly did not do it the right way, made a lot of mistakes, and now is paying a very severe and heavy price.
Well, this was a really fun episode to go out.
Oh, it was. There is so much, like the WSOP schedule, the juicy drama. As we said, we had a great interview with Tony Miles. Be sure to tune in and watch American Ninja Warrior on Monday. It's on NBC. It's at 9 p.m. Eastern time, 8 p.m. Central. I'm going to be tuning in. I might like live tweet it or something. I'm really keeping my fingers crossed that he completes the course and can take Sean Deeb for $100,000. I love Sean, but I love to see him lose.
Another story of addiction and recovery. Actually, I didn't even piece it together, but Tony's been very vocal about his recovery, and man, he's like made what a brilliant, awesome life he's built since turning his back on alcohol. And I just love his story. So I will definitely, of course, be listening to that interview as soon as we wrap this up. And then next week I'll have to tune in to listen to my own interview with Bryn Kenny. And then probably in the weeks following, I'll have to listen to the podcast to make sure that you guys are not talking shit about me, obviously.
Yeah, it's going to be hard without you, Sarah, but Jeff and I will look to carry the torch right up to the World Series of Poker in the fall. And there's going to be a lot of content. We're going to be doing live updates at WSOP.com, online bracelet events, and GGPoker as well. So we'll be covering all of those stories. We'll be covering the Phil Hellmuth, Daniel Negreanu finale of their high stakes duel. And there's lots of poker stories. Sarah, I got to tell you, now that the WSOP schedule's out, I feel like poker's back.
Dude, I'm
pandemic's
so
in the rearview mirror.
Excited about all of it. And I built the schedule for the video and social team yesterday. And I'm just like, we are going to come in and crush this year. I hope you guys, all the audience out there listening, you just know, like, we are putting our heart and soul into the WSOP 2021. And I just hope that we are going to come out of it with all of the best content and just I think the poker community has showed up so much in the last 6 months or something as we've trickled into this opening world. The poker community has been playing, been watching the whole pandemic. I think if anything, this pandemic has reinvigorated a love for this game that we already have. And I'm just super, super excited to jump back in. So I will see you guys around the main event. If you can imagine, it's going to be that long, but I just appreciate all the support, and so many people have reached out on Twitter and said, good luck with the babe and everything. So I really appreciate that. You
mentioned it at the top of the episode, Sarah. Those who stuck around and are watching this on video, do we get to end? Do they get the baby bump?
Oh, a little juice at the end. Wait till you guys see this. It's so creepy. It's just like so much. It's ridiculous. Oh my gosh, there's a human being in there. And he's like kicking the whole morning. He's been going crazy. So I will in fact upload my socials when he's born, so you guys can see the new edition. And yeah, I just appreciate you guys. I appreciate our Poker News family, and I'll see you in 4 months. Deuces.
Run It Once is a brand new online poker site founded by poker superstar Phil Galfond, who has the player's experience at heart. Run It Once plans to make online poker fun and less predatory while providing ample rewards and innovative features at the same time. All new Run It Once players who download the software via Poker News are entitled to a 100% deposit bonus worth up to €600. What makes this welcome bonus unique is that you can make as many deposits as you like for that first 30 days after your first deposit. This makes it perfect for those players who do not want to or cannot deposit $600 in one chunk. Be sure to check it out at once.run/pnpod. That's once.run/pnpod.